Now, that's the 10th Urban Forum. Is that where they normally congregate and hold their events, or?
No, they're always held in a different city. The last one was 2 years ago in Kuala Lumpur.
Oh, wow. And did you also attend that one?
No, this is my first.
Oh,
World
fantastic. So it was quite an experience then.
Yes, it's different to the other conferences I've done. There's two main types of conferences: professional association conferences, like the Planning Institute of Australia, the International Society of City and Regional Planners, and the Congress in Urbanism,
yes,
all of which I'm familiar with. And then there's the smaller commercial conferences, Marcus Evans, Fleming Gulf, which I often speak at. So the professional conferences, normally 1,000 people, perhaps.
Oh, wow.
Perhaps I think I've been at a CNU that had a couple of thousand. The commercial conferences, 50, 100 is big.
Yes.
World Urban Forum, I think we were told 10,000.
Oh, wow.
I don't know for sure. I'd have to do some research check, but that hall at the opening session, I sent a photo of. It was massive.
Yes.
Absolutely massive.
And
I know the size of a 5,000 seat theatre, and this was 3 times that, and it looked completely full.
That's enormous. Now, are all the people attending from government organisations such as yourself, or do they come from the private sector, or what sort of makeup is it?
I saw people from the private sector, from big companies to single-person companies, yes. Certainly lots of municipalities and
yes.
state government and national government organisations, United Nations organisations, of course. This is the UN Habitat sponsored conference, so
yes.
Lots of United Nations people, even United Nations security.
Oh, wow.
So very much a United Nations event, yes.
Oh, okay.
It was big. Yes.
Now, the United Nations, you mentioned they're the main sponsors or hosts of the event. What's their objective with this event, or what was their objective?
Oh, yeah, the United Nations a couple of years ago adopted new Sustainable Development Goals. You won't remember, but in the 90s they adopted the Millennium Development Goals. Or perhaps it was the late 80s, I can't remember. And, of course, once we got to the millennium, then they had to do it all again. So this time, instead of waiting another 1,000 years, they decided to call them the Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goal 11 is about cities. And in parallel with adding cities, they didn't previously have cities in there. But they've realised that in order to solve the problems of the world, they have to make cities better.
Yes.
And also make more cities.
Yes.
And so they've come up in parallel with adding a sustainable development goal for cities. They've got what's called the New Urban Agenda.
Okay.
And the New Urban Agenda then is a lot more detail about how to make cities better. So UN Habitat is focused on those sustainable development goals and how to do cities better in accordance with the New Urban Agenda. Sorry, a bit long-winded, but this is the nations we're talking about. It's always long-winded. Okay.
That was a perfect explanation. And that actually reminds me of something recently. I believe you did a presentation where, in the presentation, it may have been last year, where you mentioned a certain number of new cities need to be created within the next 20 or 50 years. What figure was that?
We have to provide good urban living for 3 billion people who will either move to cities or be born in cities over the next 30 years.
Oh, wow.
The majority of that is in fact, almost all of it is in Africa and Asia. 1 billion of those people will be in China, India, and I think it's Kenya. And we believe that those countries have the capability, the researchers, United Nations researchers, believe that those countries have the capability of managing that 1 billion urban growth themselves. China and India, particularly. China's very well versed at that. India has Prime Minister Modi's 100 Smart Cities project.
Yes.
All along those lines. However, the other 2 billion are in lots of little countries with a lot less capability.
Yes.
Stretching from Mali, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Burkina Faso, in West Africa. I probably missed a couple. Right across Africa, through the Middle East, of which some countries have capability, like the United Arab Emirates and Saudi, but others like Pakistan and Bangladesh are not so capable.
Yeah.
And then to Asia, where again you've got countries of moderate capability, Thailand,
yes,
and
yes,
Vietnam, but still it's a big ask to handle this much urbanism.
Yes,
and right across to the Philippines.
Yes, yes.
And then added on top of that, that's just the people moving to the cities because of the agricultural revolution. Mechanization of agriculture arriving in those countries. Mechanization of agriculture plus better healthcare. So it's great that we have better healthcare. But as a result of better healthcare, it's fantastic. Lots more babies live and mothers do not die in childbirth. But it means that you have a population boom.
Yes.
And that population boom happened roughly into war last century in the West, and now it's happening in Africa and Asia.
Yes.
And combined with the fact that people can afford a tractor, you no longer need 20 labourers to run a farm. You just need one guy in a tractor, and the labourers have to go somewhere, so they go to the cities.
Yes. Oh, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. Now, just finishing and returning to the talk, you mentioned that it was run by the UN. Were there any significant speakers at the conference that you attended? Or any important speakers that maybe had any interesting topics? Or
400 speakers.
Oh, wow.
The schedule was like War and Peace. Thankfully, the app was pretty good. So I'm okay. Because it was so big, the venue is big, so you're doing a lot of walking. There's also a big exhibition area where different countries, and of course the host country, the United Arab Emirates, had big display stands, and then there was little companies with small display stands. The International Society of City and Regional Planners had a small display, and so you're doing a lot of walking. Of course, Al Ain municipality was part of the part of the Abu Dhabi stand. So I was visiting colleagues there, making sure that the projects, both of which are projects I've worked on and advised on, people were happy with the display. And then I'm going to a session, and then on the way you catch up with someone you haven't seen for 15 years. So it was a lot of fun. So it was good. It's good to do something exciting and interesting, and the social functions were good, so it all worked well. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for that. That was fantastic, and